Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Viva Cafe con Leche. Happy Thursday, my goodness. Happy Tuesday. It is January 9th. We are now in the second week of the new year. Oh my goodness, its time is just passing. I am the Badass Buddha, Lori Monaco, coming to you from a very wet Eastern Tennessee, where we get a call last night and my daughter's school gets canceled because we are expecting very high winds today, up to 90-mile-an-hour gusts. So I just thought it was interesting that they would cancel before anything even happens. But hey, my kid is not upset about that. I'm just going to tell you that. So she's thrilled about that. But anyway, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Good morning, Gladiator
Yes.
Guru.
Good morning, good morning. Buenos días, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita y el Gladiator Guru. And it's been raining here too, Tuesday morning, and it's been snowing in certain parts as well. So yeah.
And good morning to Evelyn. Evelyn's first one on. See, Evelyn gets to cheat, like I said, because she's on YouTube, so she could actually pop on before we were even broadcasting. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Gail. Gail posted some pictures of New Hampshire of snow. It looked beautiful, and I asked her, how many inches did you get? And what did you say, Gail? 11 and a half? And there's supposed to be, like, I believe there's another storm coming through. I think the temperature's warmed up a little bit, at least in Connecticut, so it's coming through as rain, I think, today and tomorrow. But then at the end of the week, it's supposed to be snow again. So, well, they got this right. They said there was a nor'easter this year. I'm sorry, it was an El Nino year. So I guess we're all getting hit with it. So, yeah.
Yes. Sometimes we need the snow to cleanse a lot of stuff. To me, snow cleanses grief, it cleanses sorrow, it takes away your loneliness. Because if it snows at 5 o'clock in the morning and you make a cup of coffee and you stand outside on your porch, you can almost hear every single snowflake drop. It is the most peaceful sound. I love it.
I agree. I remember when I would clean the driveway, before I put the snowblower on and I was just doing the little shoveling of snow, especially if it was late at night. Like if the snow started earlier in the afternoon and then it was still snowing by like 10 p.m. Most people just leave it. They don't clean their driveway, except my old neighbor. He would do it, but I would go out there because I'd like to get ahead of it, not let it get too bogged up. And it was so nice because nobody was out, and snow muffles sounds, and it sounds it's so different sounding than if you're outside without snow. And I would just go out there and I would be all bundled up, and the dog would be running around and I'd be just shoveling snow and I'd stop and I'd just listen to nothing, like to absolutely nothing. And it is very peaceful. Good morning, Madeline Hernandez Lopez. Good morning, and good morning, Kathy Reese. So happy that you're all here this morning.
Yes. Hola, Milagros.
Milagros in the house, and Editha's there. So good morning, everyone. For those of you that are on, we would always appreciate if you would like, share, follow, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Just also remember, too, that Gladiator Guru and I have YouTube channels. God knows I could use some subscribers. I don't even have 100. I've had less than 100 for like 5 years now, but I don't push the channel. However, I think that I'm actually going to be pushing it. That's on my list for 2024 to start pushing my YouTube channel, and we'll see where it goes from there. But we would always love more people to come on to today's show, especially from YouTube, if that's possible, because YouTube seems to be a little friendlier as far as posting and alerting. Facebook seems to sometimes be a little too big brothery for my taste.
Yes. During this trip, because it was cold and a lot of the villages in between where we left and where we were going were closed. So there were days we walked for 4 hours with no bathroom, no water, no coffee. So the video and plus climbing up them hills, we didn't have breath to make a lot of videos. So especially that last mountain. But so I will be making videos of the pictures that I did take along the way to Margarita, Moments con Margarita. And then, did you put the name of your show? Evelyn is asking that us.
The name of my show?
Of your YouTube channel.
It's Dr. Lori Monaco. Yeah. There's another Dr. Lori Monaco on there too. She's a little bit thicker than I am. I think a little older, and she does antiquing. She praises antique. You know what I look like, so just make sure you're subscribing to the right Dr. Lori Monaco.
Yes. Okay. Lately, I have to search for the Viva Cafe page to get to the lives each time. It's something with StreamYard and Facebook, Kathy, because the badass works on it every morning to try and get to get us on so people can see us on Facebook. I don't know. Again, as she said, it's like we're being policed on Facebook. Sometimes we show up like slut magic. Sometimes we're kept a secret. I don't know.
Yeah, they keep changing things, and I think that's where a lot of people are getting very, very frustrated. And if you say anything that's remotely out of line, they use AI now, and if you say anything that's remotely out of line within their scope, they can shut you down for a while. They can make it really impossible for people to find you. And no matter what, if anytime you say, it's one of those things where you just have to kind of put it in your calendar, like make an alert to yourself that the Viva show is on. And I mean, that would be so honoring if you did that, like to say, wow, we're actually putting it in there. But that is the truth of it. They just before, remember when you used to be able to do a watch party? That was fantastic. And I think that's why we used to, in the beginning in 2020, granted, a lot of people were home, but there were times where one show we would get 600, 700 views, and we haven't hit numbers like that since like 2020. But even just on a normal view, I think we would top like 50 or 60 at one sitting. And usually we hit like 15 now. And you know what? In the end, though, it's all of you fabulous tribe members, because you're all incredible, and you're so loyal, and you've been with us, and we really greatly appreciate it. So please don't think that. We just always sometimes think it'd be fun to like one day just see this incredible amount of people on there, and then sharing, because I had a beautiful conversation with Madeline over the weekend, and it's like you all contribute, the more you learn. And it's not just like learning from us, it's learning from the outside, and then you bring it back and you contribute to the conversation. And that's what makes the show so special. It's not just about myself and Gladiator Guru talking on and on. It's about the group of us as the tribe.
Yeah.
So thank you.
It's true. Okay, let's do the intention. We have today's conversation is great.
Yes. Okay. So here we go. Set your intention on Viva. Be intentional. Just set your goal for today. You be purposeful. You could, whatever word you want to use. We always tribute that to Carmen Nieves, being intentional. But it's like, have a purpose for your day, which makes us feel much more fulfilled by the end of our day, especially when we actually follow through with that intention.
Yeah, because you were intentional, and then at the end of the day, when you follow through, even if it was only 5 things on your list for the day, that makes you successful. That's when you can celebrate. You accomplished everything on your list for that day. You intentionally set out to accomplish them, and not by those tiny hands on a clock that control us. You did it when you were at your best moment within whatever hour, within those 12 hours that you're awake. So Kudos for you, and be grateful. Last week, I don't remember if it was Tuesday or Thursday that I said, be grateful. And how before I even open my eyes, I always thank the Lord Yahweh for giving me another day, because how many people did not rise that day? So the gratitude is not anything other than you woke up. And how many of us take that for granted? How
Yes.
many of us wake up with last night's worries on our minds or yesterday's agenda on our minds? If you didn't get it done yesterday, then guess what? It's at the bottom of your list today, because now precedence is what you have planned for this day. Okay. And then if you work your time management correctly, then you'll have time to complete or even start what you didn't yesterday. But when we wake up with so much anxiety and worry, oh my God, I didn't do this and I got to do this, and you're missing the whole point of being alive.
Yes.
So let's get back onto that. It's being successfully and intentionally grateful that we have breath within us today. Because I'm just tired of when I say I don't move out of bed without praising and thinking that I'm up for the day. And then kissing myself and reminding myself how beautiful I am in whatever state I may be in. Because the day is going to beat me up, but I will not participate in it. I'm going to go out. I'm going to see things that I'd be like, ah, I want to be like that. What happened? I'm not going to question myself. I haven't been questioning myself. I've just been so gentle with myself and taking care of myself. But the thing is, we don't intentionally do that. So when we don't set an intention, se nos va de la mano. Our day has left us, and then we're sitting there complaining. So be grateful, be intentional, use it wisely at the start of your day. So at the end of the day, you still feel successful for being alive and for completing what was in your power to complete in this day.
Yeah. Yep. Trying to everybody. Oh, there we go. I'm trying to make sure that we get everybody, because it's always important to recognize that you're all here.
Yes, Jessica, Desiree, Madeline.
And I'm having a rough time keeping up with everybody. Oh my God, there's Madeline and Kathy. And Kathy, thank you so much for sharing. Kathy's always so good about that. She's like,
Yeah, she
the
is.
minute we ask her, and most of the time we don't even have to ask her, she usually just does it. So we really appreciate that. We really.
Yes, we do.
All right. Okay, so do you want to do the mantra? Are we good to do the
Yes.
mantra?
Yes, let's do the mantra.
All right. Say it loud and say it proud. 2024, and mean it this year if you didn't last year. I am a disruptor.
I am a disruptor.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am unapologetically courageous.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am spiritually grounded.
I am magically orgasmic.
Ole,
And I keep it real.
all day, no doubt, whether you like it or not.
Good morning, everybody. So thank you for being here today. Let us know what it's like where you are. I know, like we said earlier, Gail's up in New Hampshire. She got 11 and a half inches of snow. She said she had to shovel her car out twice. So, yeah, welcome winter. It's supposed to be a doozer, right? Right now in Tennessee, it's just me and my youngest daughter. My sister and my middle daughter are away for about a month. And of course, we're going to get like 90-mile-an-hour winds today. Of course. Why not? Right. So, yes, last night I had to pull stuff, like anything that was outside. I'm like putting it in the barn. I'm like dragging Charlotte's trampoline closer to one of the trees and like hooking it to the tree, because all the years I've owned a trampoline living in Connecticut, never, ever have I had the trampoline lift up in the air and become airborne. And what was it? 3 weeks having the trampoline here in Tennessee, it lifted up in the air and went into the tree and bent. And And the funny part was our trampolines were always used or free. The previous ones, this was the first one that we actually purchased, and then this one gets flown up into the tree and bends. So her dad was able to fix it, and it was great. And then I'm thinking to myself, so all of that, and then we're going to see this thing go back up again. So I made sure that I dragged it over, and I'm glad I did it last night, because last night the wind was kicking up a little bit, but it was dry. It has been raining significantly since about 6:30 this morning. So, and I would have hated dragging that and doing all that in the rain.
I know. Look at Evelyn, melting snow and a lot of black ice, which caused many accidents this morning in Connecticut. Well, God bless them. You know, and today is
removing the guardrail. We're going to talk about awareness, fearlessness, cultivating self-trust. Think about it from a perspective of, how many people like to go bowling, and how many of you are not great bowlers, but you still like to do it anyway. And you always run into that piece of, when you get to the bowling alley, to say, do I want to put the bumper guard up and just enjoy myself and actually hit pins, or do I want to just challenge myself and keep the bumper guard down and just see how good or how bad I can be? And we go both ways. I don't just go bowling on my own. I'm not good at bowling, but I like to bowl. And I'll always go with kids. And with kids, it's a mixed bag, because, if you don't have the guard up, they really do get a lot of gutter balls, and they get so frustrated. So it's like, I usually let my child decide, what do you guys want to do? If we're with a group, do you want to put the gutter guard up, and then to make them aware of them getting frustrated? If you want it down, there's going to be a lot of them. They're not going to go in the direction you want to go. So are you going to be okay with that? And it's the same thing. It's like, we're at a point in our lives where, do we want to take away that security, that boundary? Do we want to trust in ourselves? Have you ever driven on a road that's very curvy, or very high up, and there's guardrails there? There are guardrails there so that you do not go off the side of the road. But that's like in certain countries, including the United States. You ever drive to some of these countries that don't have those things, like what was it, Costa Rica? When we were driving up the mountains with these curvy, narrow roads, one end it just drops, the other end is a gutter that is just an open gutter that drops about 5 feet as it is, right? So you have to be so aware of your driving. I was definitely white knuckling it as I was driving, only because I wanted to make sure I stayed very steady. And then another car would come by, or a truck, and you'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. Because the lanes were not even big enough for 2 cars. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about being aware of yourself, being fearless, understanding fearlessness if you don't feel like you're fearless right now, and then cultivating that self-trust. What are your thoughts, Guru?
Well, yeah, because the guardrails in our life is a matter of conscience. So if you feel you can't, then you won't. And that's what this is all about. If you don't cultivate that self-trust in yourself and that self-belief that you are aware of what you should and should not do, then see, the majority of guardrails are really not placed in the most dangerous roads. If you look it up, it would tell you they're just placed there to keep you going. So it's like they're not placed in the most dangerous area. They're not located, or rather in places that you can actually drive, right? But what does it do? What do guardrails do? Like the bowling. It makes life easy for you. You don't think outside the box. And that's why we're saying removing the guardrails in your life, because actually when you choose to do that, when you are going up the road, like she white knuckled it, but she did it. You see, and that's what the majority of the guardrails are, where people won't do it. because there's no safety guards. So where's the awakening happening in your life? When is the awakening going to happen in your life? If you're constantly following the masses and how they do things, and playing it safe. You know what? I believe I have to become frustrated. I have to be bothered. I have to get pissed the fuck off, because that's how I learned what I like and don't like. That's how I know what I'm capable and what I'm not capable of. If everything's made easy, then that's just my life. There's no challenge. There's no me being a disruptor in my life, because there's nothing to disrupt. I'm following the path that everybody else wants me to take. So when it's designed to keep you from swerving in dangerous areas or off limit areas. And I think if we're going to put anything off limits in our lives, we should be the boss of that. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, listen, guardrails are a necessity sometimes. I like what Gail wrote. Gail wrote, the mountain driving in San Diego County, they do not have rails, very stressful. They have pullover spots for people like me to get out of the way of the vehicles behind me. And that's also a really good metaphor too, is that when there isn't, guardrails, or should I say, sometimes too, there's pullover spots too, because sometimes you're not going as fast as other people, and sometimes it's a little too much pressure. But pull over and assess yourself. There's nothing wrong with saying you can't do that along your path. The goal is to just not stop for an extended period of time.
To
Guardrails
quit.
the guardrails are there to provide safety in areas that are considered a little bit more dangerous, but it is still up to us to provide awareness, because it doesn't matter if a guardrail is there or not. If you're going too fast down a road and you don't take that corner well, you're going to flip right over the guardrail. It's going to make no difference whatsoever. So it is about you stepping up and saying, you know what, even though there is no guardrail there, I'm still gonna drive on that road, because I know I can do this, because I've got to get to the other side. I've got to get down the street. I've got to go down that. Even if you're hiking, if you've ever hiked in some really steep areas, it's very scary. There's like one area of the Appalachian Trail that the wind kicks up so badly that they have railing there, and they tell you have to hold on to the railing. Like this is no like, oh, I'm going to be like really cool and I don't have to hold on to the railing. They're like, no, you got to hold on to the railing, because the way the trail sits, that you have to hold on to that railing when you're going up there, or else you could literally be blown off the mountain. So you know what? I'd hold on to the railing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes you do need assistance. It's there for a reason. But how many times have we put guardrails on roads that are just straight, that we're just too afraid to like move any faster or go into a different direction? So that's what we want you to consider.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like everything. Well, we hold on to rails when we go down the stairs, especially when we're holding luggage. But the guardrails of life is not something that people need to place there for you. I really think that when you face your fears regarding the guardrails of life, you're going to set yourself free, because when we become so accustomed to the guardrails on the road, we adapt it into our lives. And then what happens with those guardrails? Okay, the matter of conscience again, the awakening, because the guardrails in life they hinder relationships, physical, emotional, and financial, because we set ourselves in between these guardrails where it's safe. And that's, there are guardrails that are necessary, absolutely. But the ones we're talking about today are the ones that we keep in our lives that are unnecessarily kept in our lives because of fear. Because of fear. And when you admit to yourself that you have been living in a box because of fear of what's on the other side of that fucking guardrail, then you will have a free flow of life. Your energy, your ego is going to be dancing with joy. It's going to combine with your spirit. It's going to say yay or nay, because the bottom line with guardrails in life, it's you stopping and listening and trusting your gut intuition. Should I go or should I not? And so if we're always going to be pretentious in life and be like, oh, I don't know, that doesn't have a guardrail, I'm not going to feel safe, then really stop and say, why aren't I going to feel safe? I must not trust myself. And it could be as simple as walking down a steep mountain, like I've had it done in the rain with Iris, or it's as simple as I'm going to pretend that didn't happen so that I don't have to deal with it. I'm just going to follow the path that has been laid out before me because everybody's walked that route. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, that's what you got to ask yourself. Who am I in today? Not who you were 5 years ago. Shit, I don't give a fuck who you were 6 months ago. Who are you today with everything you've learned, listened to, you've seen, everything you've allowed yourself to feel, sit with it so you can understand it. Who are you today? Because the fears of yesterday should not be intruding on your life today. Those are the guardrails you got to sever and throw overboard, because that's what's keeping you still in the same mind frame you were 5 years ago. Because those little triggers that keep popping up is because you've left unnecessary guardrails up. So this is what we're talking about today. The cultivation of self, the awakening of self, the flowing, the course that you're going to start taking that's going to bring you back to the free-flowing spirit that you are, so that your energy can vibrate at such a high frequency that fear is going to be coming at you and it's going to make a Yui very quick. Those are the ones we got to hold on to, because guess what? Life's going to happen. Tragedy is going to happen. Sadness is going to knock on your door. And most of the time, it's going to come in without permission and sit at the table with you. And then how are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle that? And that's a question we all got to ask ourselves. And let me tell you, you're not going to like how some people approach you on it. You're going to prefer a whole different channel to watch that you can, again, it's fear. Sometimes we need to stop being comfortable and drawing to a tribe that we're familiar with, because it's not taking you out away from the guardrails. It's keeping you in that same box. Sometimes you need such a slap in your face that you're going to say, oh, what the hell have I been doing all this time? And that slap can come with the news. That slap can come with a sever of ties that you never thought that you would be without that person. It can, with the realization that the people you've been with, you should have walked away from long ago. It's going to come in many different steps, because each of us have our own shit to deal with, or we haven't dealt with it, and it's going to come. So when you start being aware of your strengths, you want to be unapologetically courageous, stop saying the word and act on it. I hear people say that all the time, and I'm like, shut the fuck up. Because that's where I'm at right now. Because it's like, why do you keep repeating a word that you don't even understand? Nonetheless, practice. So let's start using words that we actually live.
Yeah.
And then when you want to say, I am unapologetically courageous, that's because you're stepping up to yourself and saying, this is what I am. And that's how you do it. Because last week was Nunca te engañe. Well, come on. We didn't just do the show because we thought it was a good word. Nunca te engañe. It does sound pretty when it rolls off the tongue, but it's really, really, it's a monster for many people.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So if you can't even stop lying to yourself over little things, who are you convincing you're unapologetically courageous? By the first trial, the first test, the first accomplishment, your first Golden Globe Award is when you can say that to yourself because you've stopped lying to yourself. Anything outside of you is just extra.
Yep.
So when you have guardrails and you still have them up just because you never know, well, then guess what? That's a safety net. You're never going to move forward past 5 steps because you're always going to come back to that safety net.
Yeah, that's right. I want to write. So Gail said, it's like not taking off the training wheels when you've actually mastered riding the bike. And along with that, Tiffany wrote, for my birthday over the weekend, happy belated birthday, Tiffany. I didn't catch that because I'm never really on Facebook.
Happy
on social
birthday.
media. So happy birthday! And I forgot you're a Capricorn, just like me.
What? Your birthday's coming up.
Yeah, it's not today though.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so it says I decided to take off the training wheels this weekend. It's time to ride into my destiny and face all my fears and challenges. I took a swimming class and I didn't say no. I'm too afraid. My life has revolved so much in the past years, but I have been afraid to step out of excuses. I've got this. That's great. That's great. And you know what it is? It's hard to learn how to swim when you're an adult. Like that's all the stuff that you learn as a kid because you don't have that capacity in your brain to think things through. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like now we second guess ourselves because we think of all the possibilities of what can happen, and the fear, and it's all fear based, It's like how do we know? How do we even know? Um, so that's really good. And you know what, Tiffany, that's going to set the precedence for the year because doing that means that if you face that fear, what other fears have you been putting in front of you that are just ridiculous? Most of the time, our fears are ridiculous, like preventing ourselves from doing something because of it's because that it's an excuse. We just want it as the excuse, and it's a little more complicated than that. It's not like we could just say, oh well, it's the excuse I'm using. There's legit fears. There's legit times when people really are terrified to try something, terrified to do something. But as Gail mentioned in an earlier comment, when you do it the first time, that's the scariest time. When you do it the second time, the third time, it gets less and less scary. Unless you've decided this is not for me. Like if you say I'm going to jump out of an airplane and you're terrified and you do it and then you hit the ground, you go, I'm never doing that again. That's fine because
That's
it would be
it.
very scary. But you did it. The thing is, you
That's
you
it.
tried. Now you know for sure. Some people may say, "Oh, I have no interest in jumping out of an airplane because it's too scary," and they never do it. And that might be okay too. Like I used to
That's
want
okay.
when I was younger. When I was in my 20s, I was like, "Oh, I want to jump out of an airplane." Never did it. And to be honest with you, I was thinking about this like I guess a few months back, and I thought, "Do I want to do that?" And I thought to myself, "Nah, I'm good." Like it doesn't hold the same value to me anymore, and it's not so much that I'm scared. I mean, I probably would be. It would definitely be terrifying right as you're getting ready to go. But it just doesn't hold importance to me. Some people, they'll jump out of an airplane and they're like, that's like significant for me. It's not anymore. And that's the other piece too, is that when you remove that guardrail, you want it to be significant to you. It's got to be something that you're removing the guardrail from that you've been holding back, and you say that I've not been able to be the true me because I put that guardrail up. So I'm going to remove that guardrail and really take the action, as Gladiator Guru was saying. Not just say that I'm this, take the action for it.
And that's all because when I speak, a lot of people take what I say out of context because I speak with so much passion when I speak of something I believe in. Now, when I say about the fears, I'm talking about the fear of facing the who am I question to then end it with I am this. Because there are, like, when my granddaughter goes out, I have fear with everything going on with these human traffickings. I just say a prayer and I leave it in God's hands, but there's always that initial fear. I'm talking about let go of the fear of figuring yourself out. See, Tiffany Bryan has been on her journey with us since day one of our shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she has absorbed what was being said. She has shared a lot of important stuff about fears and discomforts in her life. She shared it with the tribe. We all learned a little bit more from that.
Yeah.
She has reached a point where her fear was within her and she picked something, swimming, and she conquered it. Because when you stop lying to yourself and you face your fears, I'm talking about that reflection in the mirror. Who are you? What are you made of? What can you and can you not do? I am the same way, badass. I've always wanted to jump out of a plane, and then I'm like, nah, that ain't happening. I can prove my courage to myself in other ways. And so yeah, that is a good one. We all have fears to face. When I speak to you ladies, I'm speaking about your inner self, the inner workings, your soul. Is it singing, making your spirit dance? Are you unfucking the negative thoughts out of your brain and saying, I don't need that anymore? Why have I carried this? People hold on to things, whether material or feelings, because it's reached a comfort zone and it's been sewn into the tapestry of your soul. You don't need it. Sever. Those are the fears I'm talking about. Those are the guardrails, because then when you go out into the world and you see shit that's gonna scare you, you're going to be brave enough to say, I'm going down the next street. Oh, I don't like the way that looks. And you following your gut instincts. The guardrails are all mental to me. So fear is fear, but there's fear that we have inside that we just put up blinders, and then we follow the masses alongside the guardrails. And then there's actual fear. I don't want to go bungee jumping. I've been seeing people do that all the time. That's not something I want to do. That scares me watching someone else do it. So it's like I feel that when we face who we are, it's very scary, because I was on the Chiral thing before I came over here. I've been doing intermittent fasting. I don't understand what's going on with my body. And I caught myself once on a day when talking bad to myself. And I cried and I apologized to myself, because I have to love myself through whatever it is I'm going through. And that the biggest fear that we would face as women is, oh, I don't look good. I look big. Ah, this. And I threw that out the window. And I'm just not fearing other people's opinions of me, which has been a while now, but I almost fell into it again. So the guardrails serve as to keep you in line, I'm thinking. That's how I look at it. Isn't that what we talked about, Badass, when we made the name for the show? It's to keep you in a place where you're always safe. And what is safety? Gail, you are unapologetically courageous. Everything you're going through, and you went out and you picked up snow twice in one day. How many people would say, I can't do that, I don't feel good, or I'm not going out there, it's too cold, I'm not doing this? So you're right, it's all action. Don't tell me what you want to do, show me what you're doing, you know? And so when life is going to come at you, mi gente, because it is every day, unexpectedly, you got to, okay, I got to take myself out of this. What's the best thing I can do? What was asked of me that I can do? What don't I want to do? And then stand up for what you're believing in yourself. What you want to do is very, very important, not what you have to do or what they asked you to do. And then you say, I want to be there. So now I got to make this and I got to do this. So I haven't had time. We don't have time sometimes to feel sorry for ourselves or to be disappointed. And you just do what you have to do. That's living without guardrails, because this was my plan all the way to this. And then right in the beginning, it went like this. What do you do? And then when you know who you are, you can say, you know what, I'm going to pause it and then I'm going to come back to it. And towards the end, I'll tell you why. But you know what? Things happen that are out of our control, and they will put fear in us because it's shaking us up. And Gail, I know you know what we're talking about, the Badass Buddha movie. It'll shake you up because, you know, we don't understand everything. But if we stay focused on the decisions we made to better our lives, all that is just background noise. Go ahead.
The key words here are awareness, fearlessness, and cultivating self-trust. What would your world be like if you lived every day fearless? You know, what would that mean to you? What I mean, sometimes it's hard to determine, you know, well, I feel good today. I don't know what I'm afraid of right now until like you get there. But if you walked out every single day and felt no fear, you know, and everybody's levels are different, you know, like I could walk out, I walk out, I drive, I travel, I do this, I do that with a mindset that everything is going to be okay. But there's some people that can barely walk out of their house without having anxiety, that they're so fearful, and each day it's hard for them to even get out and do it, and they feel that every single day. That is something that is completely organic in our brains. It's something that we can fix, but we have to just keep finding the right way to fix it. You know, so some people their fear is more obvious, and some people it's less obvious. Some people could look like they're the most put together people ever, and yet there's certain fears that they have that are so overarching that they've learned to compensate, and you wouldn't even know that they have that fear. And but we have to ask ourselves those questions. We have to be aware of it when we do something and we catch ourselves and say, you know, I'm kind of afraid of that. Ask yourself why. Why am I afraid of this? Is there logic to it? Is
Mm-hmm.
Am I being rational or irrational? You know, getting on a plane and thinking it's going to crash, you know, it's not illogical, but when you look statistically, you know, the likelihood of it crashing is less likely, but it is a possibility. And then fearlessness comes into play to say, you know, the thing is, I've got to trust in the process. You know, what Gladiator Guru said about her granddaughter traveling is a very, very legit fear and very scary, especially these days. And I said the same thing about my daughter going away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, girls at a certain age group. I mean, who would have thought that shit back when we were that age? You know, that wasn't happening back then. And so, even with my daughter traveling with her friend, who I trust immensely too. He has like he's an avid traveler, army training. Um, I still was having to sit with my daughter and say, you've got to be aware of this, you got to be aware of that, because you would be the one that people want, not the other two. So please be careful about going to certain areas and be mindful, even though you're with the other two, to be mindful of your surroundings. But I don't want to put such fear in her that she doesn't want to travel. And it is scary to think that sometimes you have to say, I'm going to trust in the process. You know, as a mom, I've thought of numerous times about best case scenarios, worst case scenario. What do I do if the worst case scenario happened? I don't want my daughter to keep her life enclosed in the house. If something bad happens, it's going to happen. And it's terrible to say that, but please
But
understand where
it's true.
I'm coming from a place where I have to trust in the process. And if that is the way her life is supposed to go, if something terrible happened, then that was the way her life was supposed to go. I've noticed with my daughter traveling that it has released something that was very much locked in place for her. A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, social anxiety, low self-worth, and her traveling has unleashed and let go of a lot of that stuff. So to me, this is a win-win. This is a kid who 2021, when she graduated high school, she almost didn't graduate her last semester and she just gave up. And I actually thought she was going to kill herself. Like that's how low her brain was. We had conversations about it. We went away for a family road trip and she barely spoke. She was in a bad mood for most of it. And then now this kid is so happy-go-lucky and easygoing now, and she's still working through her little demons. But she said to me, "You know, Mom, I want to go to college." Which before she didn't even you couldn't even talk to her about it because she would get stressed out about it. And this is a kid who decided, "Yep, I'm going to college, and I want to start in September or August." You
That's
know,
amazing.
and
Amazing.
it's this big switch, and it's because of her traveling by herself, because of traveling in general, because we moved, we relocated. She was able to really see herself in a different perspective. Changing the environment made a huge difference, whether it was traveling or not. So who am I to impose my fears on her to prevent her from becoming who she is. Yeah, there's a
Absolutely.
lot that can happen. You know, the plane could crash on the way back and I lose my daughter and my sister, but it most likely won't. And it's just one of those things where I just have to let her live her life. She can't live by my fears. That's the most horrible thing that we could ever do as a parent to a
And
child.
that's what I tell my granddaughter. I always sending them blessings, and you know me, I'm big. I can be like really agonizing over something, and I'll stop and I'll say a prayer, and I put all my emotions into that prayer, and then that's it. I put it in his hands. And I say, whatever your will may be. I do that every time I get on an airplane. I say a prayer, deliver us safely to our destination, or may your will be done. And I go to sleep. I'm fine. I don't need to know the captain, because that's how I've always done. But the thing is, you always get that fear. So when I talk to you about releasing the fear, as step at a time, everybody handles things differently. As long as you work actively every day, actively working on it, you're successful. Don't say, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. And then it sounded pretty, but then you go back to your same way the next day
And
and the
then
next day
complain
after that.
about it. And then
That's what
complain
I'm,
about it. Like it's listen, it's one thing to say, when you're building up sometimes, you'll say, yeah, I got to do that. And you don't do it, but you're building. And there's nothing wrong with that. At some point, you're going to step out and I'm going to do it. Like years ago, I went hiking with a whole bunch of friends. This is when I was in my 20s. And we got to there was a lake and we got to this huge rock, ledge. And it must have been about, I don't know, must have been about 20 feet up or something like that, 25 feet up. And they were all jumping off of it. And I was terrified. I'm like, I can't, I wanted to, because they were all jumping off it. They're like, come on, you could do it. And I'm like, I was so terrified. And they all got out of the water and then they went back to the little campsite that we created. And I kept sitting there going, I hate that I'm afraid of this. I hate that I'm afraid of this. Like, I don't want to. So I went back to the edge and I'm like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm just, but they weren't around. Like, nobody was around, which probably wasn't the best thing. But I'm like, I'm going to do this on my own. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And finally I jumped. And I jumped. I have to hold my nose. And of course, my hand went like this when I hit the water at the impact I did. Water flew up my nose. But I
you
did
did
it.
it.
I did it. I said, I'm not going to do it again because that's not for me.
You did it.
Did it.
That's
Now, can I
it.
do it now? I don't think so. I don't think I can do it now.
I
But
wouldn't, but
it's just if you say it, if you want to do it and then you don't do it, that's one thing. But if you want to do it, you don't do it, and then you complain about it, enough
I don't want to
already.
hear it. I don't want to hear it.
It's
That's where I get
a
disliked, because
complaint.
I don't want. So listen, what the badass Buddha, she said something, and I thought of words. When you plan and you plan, and again, everybody's timing is different. I can say I want to do this, and I'm gonna start before the evening. Or I'm gonna start first thing in the morning. We both said we're gonna do it. You might want to start on Monday, the beginning of your week. But if you're gonna be the architect of your life and you're gonna plan out and sketch out what you want from here to 5 years, is just throw it out there. Then you better put your hard hat on and become the contractor of your life and start laying them bricks. You're going to have to wear both hats in your life. Plan it out, you draw it out, be the architecture, and then be the contractor and complete it. All we could do is root for you. All we could do is remind you, but to be aware of who you are, where you are at, and where you want to be, it's totally up to you. So, as she just finished saying, you can talk. But if you don't follow through, I don't want to hear you in another month saying, I really wanted to do this, but because then, you know what? Go talk to the badass Buddha. I'm not going to.
Me either.
I just threw you in there because you're the one I'm looking
Me
at.
either.
So what I'm saying is, build the life that you want to live. It's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine. You're going to have tsunamis. You're going to have tornadoes. There's going to be hurricanes blowing in and out of your life, and they're either friends, family, your own kids, whatever. It's going to happen. But just know this, if you know who you are, if you value your courage and you know what your strengths are, you are always going to face them head on. And they're going to be uncomfortable and they're going to disrupt whatever you have going on at that moment. But you're not going to fall. And that's the life you want to live. Because life isn't a comedy, it isn't a musical. It's a drama and a horror flick all put into one. So you have to determine, do I want to be this main character in my life where I'm going to know how to maneuver in and out of problems, but when I can't, I'm going to know how to handle them? Or are you going to always be the one screaming, running to the back of the house, locking yourself in a room with no windows? The choice is always yours. But the outcome of your life, remember, it's also your choices, not anybody else, not what people did to you in the past, not who is standing with you today. It's all on you. And Gail, absolutely. See, when you can tell your inner child, I am here for you if you succeed, and I'm here for you when you fail, that is still success because you're acknowledging a fact and you're not lying to you or that inner child.
And I
And
love
that's
and I
what,
love what Tiffany wrote. Tiffany wrote, if I don't tell you enough how grateful I am for this tribe, please know how much you all mean to me. From day one, you have encouraged me, made me emotionally grow up and set goals for myself. Purging is my motto now. Holding on to so many things literally held me down. Purging has given me peace of mind. And then Desiree comes in with, I appreciate you, Tiffany. Keep going. And that's the beauty of this.
yeah,
You know, this is, let's see what else Kathy wrote. A few years
that's important.
some type of fear had me shaking so bad I started questioning it out loud. Is this fear even mine? It left instantly. Crazy stuff. That's awesome. It just says, as long as you get up again and try again, that's okay. As long as you don't give up. Changes daily commitment. Promise to yourself that you're a priority in your own life and journey.
Amen.
And Gail, thank you so much for that. Thank you, Iris. You always get up and try again. Iris is a welcome wagon. Iris is our welcome wagon.
Yeah,
Um,
but
we're
it's
grateful
true.
for that.
But let me tell you something, Kathy. What you said is very, 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 very important. And that's part of don't lie to yourself. Why do we feel that we have to absorb everybody's bullshit, everybody's emotions, everybody's situation? And then it gets sewn into with ours that we don't ever. How many here, please say yay or nay, have ever asked themselves, is this pain even mine? Is this confusion even mine? Is this fear even mine?
Yeah.
Do we even stop to ask ourselves, our spirit, that question? And you know what? I believe that it left instantly because I'm very spiritual in that. And I've witnessed it, I've felt it, I've lived it. And we don't even ask ourselves that enough because we've gotten so used to the chaos in our lives as children. And we grow with it, and it's just the norm because it's all we knew. So if any of you can ask yourselves that, whatever it may be, do it.
That's actually,
Look, Gail wrote something to what I said.
I think that, or Gail put, what is it here? That the pain is not even mine. I allow others' energy to leak into my
Yeah.
sphere. Yes. And Tiffany said that's so true. Um, that actually, I don't know if we've ever done a show on that, but that would really be a good show to do. Is the pain even your pain? Is the fear even your fear? I mean, how many of us have, as we've gotten older, we realize the similarities to ourselves and our parents, like one parent, both parents, not everything maybe, but certain things. And it's interesting, oftentimes the very issues we have with our parents could also be the issues that we have with ourselves, because we have a tendency to look outward and see it, but we don't see it within ourselves. But um, I get frustrated at the amount of fear that my mother has been brought up, like she's just had. But and for a long time, I was definitely getting annoyed with her when it was also on me. But as of lately, what I've come to the conclusion is that seeing her fear, seeing the way she avoids things, the way that she would just rather ignore people in her life that are very toxic and so on and so forth, and their behaviors. I don't want to be that person. Like I don't want to be that person. I don't want to accept individuals treating me or other people a certain way. I just don't want to be around them, and I'm not going to ignore it. So I'm grateful that I've been able to be aware of it, and I'm grateful that I have to put myself in check. You know, I can't change her. That's her story. That's her path. I could give her information, but I've already seen that it goes on deaf ears. She argues her point, and I have to let go of that. And for me, I had to live with the fact of, why is it so important for me to get her to recognize this? Why am I trying so hard for her to see this? And I have to stop. And I have
Yes,
stopped. I have stopped because all it's done is distracted me from
absolutely.
my own thing and being unapologetically courageous. So when somebody turns around and says, "Oh, well, it's a shame that you're doing this and you're acting this way," I own it. You know, if I'm still working on it and it's not the best version of myself, I can admit that and say, it's, you know what, I don't want to be that person anymore. When I get angry about something, I don't want to be an angry person anymore. So I have to work on that. Those are things that unresolved issues. But it's about saying, I'm owning this, and I'm getting, and like Tiffany's word, purging. I'm getting rid of those things.
Yeah,
So
because
removing the guardrail to stop limiting myself from staying on this one path. You remove a guardrail, all of a sudden you have another road that you can turn onto. How many times have you said that you wanted to pull over on the side of the road for whatever reason, and you're like, damn, there's a guardrail. I have to wait until there's no guardrail sitting there. But if you
hmm
remove the guardrail, you can go off your path and go onto another very cool path.
but you gotta want it, and you gotta stop trying to analyze someone else's behavior, because it's not. It's just a cover up for you not facing your own. And we've all been there. We've all done it. And Gail, I also speak to mine, and that's because sometimes I still have questions over my chaotic parents, and it's true, to let go of someone else's pain, it can be more difficult than your own, because we just grabbed it, we didn't understand it, we're just holding on to it. So yeah, I mean, there's so much, but let me tell you, tomorrow I fly back home. This trip, this camino, we were doing 10 to 15 kilometers a day, where the kilometers are normally 20 to 25, but we ain't doing that shit. We did what our body was able to do. So we figured the 34 days it would normally take, we had to times it by two. So we were looking at the third week in February to the end of February, walking this camino. But on Friday, my 2:30, my time here, 2:30, my son calls me that he tried to wake up his dad, and his dad had gone, transitioned. And my son, ooh, so he asked me to come home. So we leave out tomorrow, and we're talking about letting go and fears and all this. And my husband died, what, going on 7 years now, but Robert was the love of my life, my first love. So I'm not carrying anybody's pain, because mine. So don't be afraid. I'm crying now. I never cried before. But feel what you feel. Let it come to you, to go through you. And do the same with fear. If it comes to you, rebuke it. Say, I see you. I know that you are there. You are not welcome to stay. And act on your emotions. What am I feeling? This is my emotions. This is not my son's pain and turmoil he's going through. Although I know that he's lived with his father all his life. So that my granddaughter has been coming home every night. Grandpa, we're home. So it's going to take a lot. But that's why I opened up with what I said last week. When you get up in the morning, cut the bullshit. Don't bring yesterday's mess into the rise of your new day. Don't hinder your day by worrying about what's yet to come. Be grateful that you woke up and that you will have the ability to accomplish the successes in your life. Stop wasting time. We don't have time. Do what you can with the time you have now. And then whatever's left over, you pick it up if tomorrow arrives for you. But that's the gratitude. That is having gratitude when you wake up in the morning, and let's start appreciating the life that we have because it's not promised.
That's right.
And with that,
Oh. Thank you, Gladiator Guru, for sharing that. And we are all sorry for your loss and your son's loss. And you needed to have a very safe trip back. And hopefully we'll see you on Thursday if there's no issues with travel. And yeah, so
travel, from when we got the news, we were in the country. And it was the next day was Three Kings Day, and everything shuts down in Spain. So we had to wait till Sunday. We took 3 buses that totaled over 12 hours in travel to get us to where we're at today. And then tomorrow we leave at 9 in the morning, take 1 flight from here into Madrid, and then wait 2 or 3 hours, and then take a flight from Madrid and arrive in New York at 8 o'clock at night. So tomorrow is a full day of travel as well. But you know what? Because we did it with grace, because we did it with love, even though we were disappointed, because we're not going to hide that we were disappointed. Our trip got cut short. We traveled well. Did you know we had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the major city we finally got to? We were out of the albergue at 3 in the morning, walking to the bus stop. And of course, I had my knife open and everything. But it was the safest walk I ever had at 3 in the morning through a city. And you know what? That just shows you that, you know what? We left with no fear. We were on a mission. We knew we had to get there before 4. So what I'm saying is, shit's going to happen. Choose wisely for your life. And with that,
okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming on. Have a beautiful day, and remember to work on yourself. So, from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
And from the Gladiator Guru, mi gente, do what I've been doing for the last couple of days, really like every hour. Breathe in the beauty. And breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste, everyone.